Hi, these comments are for TK. This is Michael from Better TOEFL Scores, and I'm getting ready to listen to a TOEFL speaking integrated practice test that you completed. I'm getting set right now for it. So you have the integrated speaking rubrics right here. I got them all set. And it says here, please listen to evaluate, score, provide feedback on my integrated speaking practice test. This is from the official guide of the TOEFL Test 6th edition, practice test 3, question 3, cognitive dissonance. For reference, this is my script. So you like to write your script out, practice it a few times, and then email me your response. Okay, let's see how you did, and I'm going to listen to it the first time without giving you a score, and I'll read what you wrote and kind of compare.
It is noted in the article that cognitive dissonance is discomfort which people feel when they have a contradiction between their actions and their beliefs. This often
Beliefs.
makes people tend to change their interpretation of the situation so that they can reduce the inconsistency between what they do and what they believe.
Between.
The professor elaborates on this by giving an example of his high school
Elaborate.
life. When he was a high school student, he was so into video games and was bad at chemistry, which he knew he should study hard. Since what he wanted to be was a sociologist, he decided to change his interpretation of this situation. What mattered were such subjects which would be of benefit in his future career, not irrelevant subjects like chemistry. In this way, he dealt with what is called cognitive dissonance.
Okay, so you said he decided to change his interpretation. What mattered were subjects which would be a benefit, not irrelevant subjects like chemistry. Or how about not irrelevant subjects which kind of contradicted the purpose of his study or something. So as you explain this, think of ways in which you can integrate this definition into the example that the professor gives. He was which means very into, he liked video games a lot. It's a little bit less formal to use this here. You might say he was obsessed with video games but was bad at chemistry, which he knew he should study hard. So there's a conflict. There's a conflict between, you could say when he was in high school, he faced a conflict of interest. On the one hand, he was into video games and really liked them a lot. On the other hand, he was very bad at chemistry, but he knew that he needed to study hard in that subject. So as you explain this, maybe this is the advice. As you explain this, think of ways of integrating this example or that definition into the example that you explain. That's my advice on that. Okay, let's look at. I think you're moving in the right direction. I think you're at least between 3 and 3.5, right? So I'm going to put you at 24 to 26 points on this one. I think you're getting close to where you can get that high score. You had a few problems with some delivery, maybe. So let's listen to it one more time.
It is noted in the article that cognitive dissonance is
How about is noting the article that just say the article states or the article defines cognitive dissonance as. So be a little more concise. Don't use a lot of words that you don't need and give yourself more time to develop the ideas that you're explaining.
discomfort which people feel when they have a contradiction between their actions and their beliefs.
Right? So the actions and beliefs, the man had a contradiction, right? His contradiction was the video games he really liked to play, but then his needing to do well in chemistry and consequently put a lot of focus in that, and that's a conflict.
This often makes people tend to change the interpretation of the situation so that they can reduce the inconsistency between what they do
You have a little trouble with that
and what they believe.
between what they do and what they believe. So I think you can work on the L and the R sounds. Your first language is Japanese. These sounds are not meaningfully distinctive in your language. You're used to kind of pronouncing them as the same sound. So go into the pronunciation part of my course and work on the R and the L consonants.
The professor elaborates on this by
Elaborates.
giving an example of his high school life.
So it gives an example of his high school life in which he faced a contradiction in his hobbies versus his academic interest. Maybe that's how you can frame that, and then it already kind of shows what the connection is back to the definition.
When he was a high school student, he was so into video games and was bad at chemistry, which he knew
How about he was really involved or obsessed with video games, but he was bad at chemistry. Maybe the word "but" works better there to kind of show the contrast, how one thing is better than the other.
he should study hard. Since what he wanted to be was a sociologist, he decided to change his interpretation of this situation. What
He decided to change his interpretation of this situation,
mattered were such subjects which would be of benefit in his future
which would be of benefit.
career,
So with the W, you got to round the lips a little bit more. Would be of interest.
not irrelevant subjects like chemistry.
Irrelevant subjects.
In this way, he dealt with what is called cognitive dissonance.
Good. So I think that my score is pretty accurate. I'll stick by that. So 24 to 26 points on this one. So I'd like to see you better integrate when you do this kind of speaking task. Try to integrate parts of the definition into the example by taking some of the key words for the definition and then put those into the example as you describe that from the professor's point of view.